me.
Why do you, in your theories, why do you think these big ag feels that you're a threat, or the 2009 big farmers are a threat?
Big ag deals in what we call futures. They're big futures people. This group, Ag Leaders of Michigan, is nothing more than a lobbying group. They have a big office. None of these guys are farmers or businessmen. They just use farmers as their product line, all right? And they're looking at what's going on here with a bunch of people that all of a sudden care about what they put in their mouth, you know, pretty intimate process. And they're saying, uh-oh, they're on to us. They don't want to eat our dirty chicken. They don't want to eat our dirty pigs and full of all this stuff that was making you sick. And there's more, like this group, how big was this group 3 years ago? How big was it 10 years ago? It didn't exist, probably. So the trajectory of this group, that means where are you going? You add 4 new people a year, 4 new people a month. You know, the trajectory is really good because people are figuring out that, you know, I went to the doctor and he gave me this, this, and this. That made me nauseous, made me sick, didn't do anything. I'm going to try raw milk. Kristen Canty, perfect example. You guys know her? She did Farmageddon, the movie Farmageddon. I've gotten to know her. She had a kid that was sick with allergies so bad that it was retarding his mental growth. And she tried everything. I mean, there was plenty of funds to make that happen. Somebody recommended raw milk, and she's just, you know, the type of person that would say, well, I'll try it. And she did, and it cured it. Raw milk. That's where the movie Farmageddon came from. She was so motivated to get the word out. To combat what is going on with industrial ag, just trying to squash family farms. Another question?
So does industrial agricultural people not have pigs in Michigan?
I'm sorry?
Are these industrial ag groups or people or whatever companies, do they not have pigs in Michigan? Are they all outside of Michigan?
No, industrial ag has pigs in Michigan. That's one of the small problems. In the declaratory ruling, there is one little statement. It says, this is not intended to affect sus domestica. Sus domestica, that's pig, in domestic hog production, right?
Factory farm, right?
Well, domestic hog production. So I said, oh, then I'm clear. I'm a domestic hog producer. And they said, no, you're not. No, you're not. We said, well, if I'm not a domestic hog producer, then what am I? They won't give an answer. That was part of the reason we needed to sue them. What is a domestic hog producer? Apparently, they feel as though it's just the industrial guy. Apparently. Right? Because their pigs have straight tails, curly tails, right? Floppy ears.
Is there an alternative? Medium cook?
I don't think there's a middle.
That just means pigs.
Yeah.
Any and all pigs. Yeah. Unless you're on a big farm.
I don't know, maybe you should just dock it when it's born, and then it won't have to.
Jack, cut ears off? No, I don't think we want to do that. See, it's very confusing, but it's kind of meant to be confusing. So let's say this guy wants to get into farming right now, and he sees all this turmoil around tilling the earth and raising animals, a great way of life, and he says, I don't know if I want to do that. So that's why I'm not happy, because my children, I want a legacy for my children, and right now the way it stands is there doesn't seem to be one. You know, and we're the citizens, right? They work for us. It's kind of time. I think it's time. This is the moment that we need to grab a hold of them and say, listen, this is how it's going to be. Because that's how we want it to be. There's so many more of us. Somebody sent me a picture of a bunch of sheep chasing, it was on Facebook, it was chasing a herding dog. And, you know, if you think about it, Lansing's a pretty small town, and they're going to tell the rest of the state what to do. I don't think so. I don't think it ought to be that way.
And they spent $1 million, you said?
Over $1 million.
Over $1 million.
Well,
Our money.
Your money.
Okay,
My money too, yeah.
Yeah, right. Our money is
Yeah.
to fight something that
consistent, constant.
Borrow some more, you know.
Why not? Any more questions? Great.
You mentioned your kids a couple of times. When we go through adversity, it changes us. So I'm curious how your kids are doing. Like, I could see them being really bitter, I hate the government, let's move to Canada, or I could see them being like, I want to grow up and be a lobbyist. Like, I'm just curious how your kids are taking things.
Well, I'm thinking through the faces right now, and I think there's going to be a different tune from each one of them because they're all different. It's been tough on them because it keeps, Jill and I are kind of involved, and I'm more involved, and I'm not taking time for them, and not being kind with them. Because, you know, you get aggressive towards people that work for you that are destroying what you've put together, destroying your life savings. And the thing that gets me the most is we have this, the Bill of Rights, U.S. Constitution. I'm military. I know people that have lost legs, arms, died for that sacred piece of paper that keeps our country the way it is. If you haven't been outside of the United States, try it out sometime. Go to the Philippine Islands, go to Thailand, go to South America, see what you think there. We don't have a constitution like we do. And then we have these politicians, Attorney General, that has, you know, pictures of the Constitution on his website, but then levels a $700,000 fine against me. Clear violation of the 8th Amendment. And it's like, no big deal. He can do it, but I couldn't do it. He can, the 5th Amendment says my property is protected by the U.S. Constitution. And here's a guy that supports a declaration making my property, my pigs, worthless overnight. Clear violation of the Constitution. And these people are collecting big paychecks, and American GIs go off, fight and die for peanuts, for the love of that piece of paper. And believe me, they learn that as military people. They learn that. You raise your hand over 20 years, you do it. Let's see, 4 goes into 25 times. And as an older GI, when you make that pledge, that oath to the Constitution, to protect and defend the Constitution against any enemy, foreign and domestic, and you've seen people die, it means a lot more to you than, you know, when you're a kid in school and do the Pledge of Allegiance. So it really means something. These guys in office do this right under your noses, right in front of you. And I'm here to tell you too, they don't have the authority that you think they do. It's perceived, it's smoke and mirrors, it's, what are we talking about? The Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. You know, pay attention to me. This illusion of power. If we did not have the Constitution, and I know I hear that, the Constitution is not effective anymore. If that's true, why did the Michigan State Police show up at my place on April 1st, shoot my animals, and then shoot me, put me against the wall and shoot me? If there's no Constitution, why didn't they do that? I'm certainly a major pain in Governor Snyder's rear end. Matter of fact, there's one person who would probably be make it very difficult for him to get reelected. You're looking at it right now. And I'm doing that because I don't think a man should hold office if he can't do the basics of protecting and defending the beloved Constitution. I don't think he should be in office, or should not be in office. Or my county sheriff should not be in office.
Sheriff Joel
Yeah.
from Arizona, you too.
Right. Yeah, or Mac. Sheriff Mac. Did that answer your question? Oh, I
Your
want.
kids, how are your kids?
Oh, my kids. I think they could probably be pretty bitter about this because there's been a couple, 2.5 years that they've missed. They've missed me and Jill, like being their parents. And we have less time for the older ones, so we just concentrate on the little ones. But they grow through it. you know, and they're tough, they're physically very tough, mentally tough because of this. I wouldn't take it back. If I could rewind the tape and just pause it over this, I wouldn't do it. I'd do it again. I'd go through this again, certainly.
Why?
Well, I was in aviation, right? This is how I look at it. Did you say why, Kelly?
Yes.
I was in aviation, airplanes, and we have these switches in the cockpit that have two positions on them. Maybe you've seen them in other things, but it says press to test. So you can press the button and it will light up under your thumb. And then you can go to the next position and it will turn on the windshield wipers. So it's a press to test, and you're testing the circuit to make sure the circuit's good, right? So I hear even Rush Limbaugh saying, hey, this Constitution's coming. No good. Guy in Washington's just walking all over it. Well, maybe so. Maybe so. But I wanted to hit the press to test button here, because if I am living in Bolivia, I want to know. All right? Because if that's the way it is, if we're peasants, right? Get the pitchforks. But I want to know where we are. I want to know where I am. I assumed getting out of the military in 2004 that I'm walking into a representative republic that's governed by the Constitution. That's what I assumed, and I still believe that. I have friends who will tell me it's not that way. That's not the way it is. I don't accept your reality. I want to sway you to my reality, and that's. I'm from Massachusetts. I'm from near the Concord Ridge. I am from a place where the government marched against the people to take their powder, take their weapons, and the colonists fired on their troops. So that's where I'm from. Those are my people that fired on the Redcoats. So I just, it's not in me to let them do this. It's just not. I'm just doing this. Yes?
I'd like to find out your lawyer. I think we should support lawyers that are going to stand up for their rights.
I'd like you to support my lawyer too. I really like that. There was another question. Maybe?
Since there was no hearing, since there was no legal precedent on your behalf, or legal, I should say, judicial ruling
That's
on
it.
your behalf, is there no legal precedent to protect anybody else out here?
Okay. There was no judicial oversight, so is there precedent set? I believe there is precedent set. And the precedent is, it's all informal. You'll say to other farmers, you want to go through what he went through? That's the precedent they've set, but it's not formal, and it's not correct, and it's not legal. You are right. There should have been a judicial order that came down and said, this declaratory ruling is for murders. This needs to be deep six. It needs to be gone. It's bad. And that didn't happen. And that's why I'm not happy. I'm not happy about that. But precedence was set on our side too. The state right now is back down. Are they going to go against anybody else soon? No, because we have put together a network. And it's a network of people like you that do things that irritates the government. You know, like, they only have so many phones down there. And when you ring them constantly, they hate that. And then they start to think, boy, I'm not going to get elected in office. That's what really bothers me. But right now what's going on, right now what's going on is politicians are flocking to us to do interviews because they want to appear to you to be on the side of the good guy. And I think we're the good guy. I really do. I think we're the good guy. So, yes.
So for what you're taught so far, the things that we can do, the people that want to do something, we can ring their phones off the hook, we can pay your lawyers. What else would you like us to do? Is there anything else that you think of?
You know, there is. We even wrote up a list of
Okay.
things and we put it on the table there. Networking is huge. We have we have Facebook, and we have all these other things, Twitter and stuff. If everybody in here contacted 10 people, this is an army. This is an army right here. You realize only 2% of the population in the colonies did anything during the Revolutionary War. 2%. And far fewer than that picked up arms, actually. Far fewer. So it doesn't take a million people. It takes just a vocal few. And what we need to do, what we've been doing, we encourage people to do this on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, Acres Green Acres channel, and I give weekly or bi-weekly briefings on what's going on, and have a pretty good following. And people, they mirror that on their YouTube channels, which is good. People go on Facebook, and they mirror those things. People can call the Attorney General's office, can call the DNR, people can call the Governor's office, and just voice your disapproval. And I don't think it's a good idea to just call them once. I think you should do it like 3-4 times a day. It really makes sense to do that. Now, if you had a child that needed raw milk, gonna die without it, would you just call it once? Or would you be ringing that phone constantly if you could? Constantly. Here's another thing you can do. You can say, I'm thinking about buying pigs from Mark Baker. Am I legal? They hate that. And back to your question is because the precedents. There's such a thing in the Fifth Amendment called equal protection under the law. All right? You can drive 55 on the highway, so can you. They can't bust you for doing 55 and not bust you. We're all protected under the law, equally protected under the law. So if I can raise pigs in Michigan with straight tails and curly tails, so can you. Another thing is join our food buying club and support the farm. Or if we have any independently wealthy people in the room, or you know some, dollars are like ammunition to fight this fight. And I'm telling you something, if they knock me down and I'm no longer able to keep going, who's next? I mean, who's going to step up and take my place? I'm probably the best bet going right now because we've got some momentum.
You said there were, of like 2009, other farmers that are smaller like you.
Yes.
Has the DNR gone after any of those farmers?
No. No. They've gone after a guy by the name of Ron McKendrick and a guy named Dave Tuxbury. And then we filed our suit. And when the suit was filed, everything kind of stopped. Because a citizen, I mean, this is for, I can't reference it constitutionally, but if you have beef with something that the government has done, and you confront them, and then you challenge it in the court of law, until it's resolved, it's on hold. And so we were pretty well protected while the suit was going on for 2.5 years. And the DNR has received so much bad publicity over this, that they're not likely to do anything soon. But see, the DNR is just a regulatory agency like the DEQ, right? And you don't know some of the stuff that the DEQ has done. Outrageous, outrageous. Private property is private property. And just because they say it's wetlands, you know, and it's perceived authority. They really don't have the authority to do what they do. But that's part of what we're in the midst of here. Now, when we sued DNR and Department of Ag at the same time, because they both had oversight on the feral swine issue. So we sued them both. Department of Ag is just as bad. It's a regulatory agency, and they have direct policing authority over, or regulatory authority over farmers. Not saying that they can tell you what to do, although they like, you know about GAPS, G-A-P-S? Anybody know about that?
You mean the GAPS diet?
No, not the GAPS diet.
That's what I know about
GAPS
GAPS.
is good agricultural practices. And what it was something that somebody in Lansing dreamt up that I know we can send people out to inspect the farms and make sure they're doing things right. So we're going to send somebody from Lansing out to make sure I'm doing things right. Okay. They're doing a fine job in Lansing. Now they're gonna spread their fine job in this on my farm. That's a good idea, and charge me for it, and if I don't do it, then restaurants can't buy my stuff. GAP certified is what it's called, but farmers pretty well stood up, told them, not doing it, just not gonna comply. And they said, well, we were probably reaching on this one anyway, so they let it go. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, did you get your customers back?
No. What they did, they systematically went to my customers, Department of Ag, and said, you know, his pigs are feral, and feral pigs carry diseases. And they said feral pigs can carry up to 30 diseases, up to 30 diseases. How many diseases do you think you could carry? See, but the customer hears that, and they say, well, these pigs are diseased, you know? So they scare people off, and then after all, they're the Department of Ag, and they know everything about farming, right? So restaurants listen to them, retail stores listen to them, and the customer base listens to them. I have a boy that works for us, mentorship program. His dad is a doctor, his mom is a nurse, real smart people. And she wanted to join our food buying club, wanted to get to know things like that. But she said to me, I'm just afraid. I said, why? She said, well, my husband's a doctor, I'm afraid the Department of Ag will sue him. So here's smart people that hear this coming from our government, and they heed the warning and they say, no, I don't think so, I'll just keep eating out of the store. So our customer base is shut, but the good news is we met you guys through this whole thing, and we were actually selling our Magalites pigs, our pastured poultry, the grass-fed beef, we were selling it to restaurants. And people that go and eat those restaurants, they can afford it, but they don't necessarily appreciate it. We would rather sell it, 33% less, because, restaurants got to mark it up 30%. Retail's 33. We'd rather sell it to you guys directly, to people that need it, and if we ever had a problem again, I feel as though you guys would have my back. My retail, my restaurants, they drop me like a hot potato. So I don't know if I want them back. I don't want them back. I want to sell direct to my customers, because between me and you. So why should you have to buy it from, I don't want to hurt any retail stores because some people can't get to the farm, but that's just
So that's the transition. Have you started that transition? Are you getting rid of all your product?
Well, yeah. Well, we started it last, July? Did we start the buying club?
Yeah,
We-
just somewhere.
We interfaced with the Salatin farm, Sherry Salatin, and I got to meet Joel through this whole thing. It was really cool. So I'm sure people have heard of him. I ate dinner with him and everything. Really cool. And they talked to us about the food buying club, and we're mirroring their operation. And it takes a while to get going, but you're building a foundation that's vast, wide, and solid. I mean, you guys will come out on a night like tonight. You could have stayed home and watched Dancing with the Stars or something like that. You came here. So this is a solid group of people. I mean, you're dedicated to your bodies, which is good. Yes.
If you, I'm confused, if you sued the state for clarification of the law, how did that just evaporate? How did they not, if you had a trial, they said, why did the trial not happen, just because they dropped their charges, doesn't seem.
Well, here's how it works. Everything works on conflict, right? The lawyers get paid because there's conflict. The judge has a job because there's conflict between the two entities. When the DNR said, he's complied, we're okay, the judge was like, what? The judge even questioned, like, nothing's changed there, what? We don't have a problem with Mark's Pig. And if you want to watch that, it's on YouTube at bakersgreenacres.com. No, Bakers Green Acres YouTube. The attorney from the state actually gets quite rude to the public. It was really bad, really, really bad. But you can watch the judge's reaction when the state drops their charges against us. But when they drop their charges, there's no more conflict. Because they're stating with prejudice that they are not going to enforce on my farm. So I'm suing them for clarification of something that they're promising not to enforce on my farm. I agree, it's sleazy. It's sleazy as can be. It doesn't serve justice, right? So the Attorney General should have said, wait a minute, we're a nation of laws, and this does not serve justice. It's not liberty and justice for all, like when we stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance, which, by the way, the attorney from the state refused to stand up for our Pledge of Allegiance in court of law. You can see that on YouTube too. I heard them mad. Didn't know it was on film. Yeah.
So essentially, they just loophole it, so that gives them the right to keep it hanging out there. If they ever choose to enforce it against the other 2009 small farmers. But because it's not directly against you, it only squashes it against you, but they still get some loophole, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Yes.
So if they show up at your door and you're a farmer, are there some tips or, where do people go when they feel with their backs against the wall?
Oh, I'm sorry, but the DNR shows up?
Yeah.
And ours.
Oh, and yours? I would call me. And I would plug into the network, and then we can initiate a lawsuit against them for equal protection. And luckily, we have Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. Another thing that you can do, big thing, is join Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. Because what that is, here's a little bit more gun talk for you. That got me in trouble, but gun talk. On a farm, and we have chickens and the fox is going to get in the hen house, we'll keep a shotgun above the door. It's loaded. It's got shells in it. Why? Because if I hear clucking out there, I don't want to go digging through a drawer to find shotgun shells. So, Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund has lawyers. Those are like the shells in the gun, right? And they're already in place. They're already smart on farm issues. And then we got a pot of money through memberships. So all we have to do is point, and I probably shouldn't use gun. It's like a dog, a point dog and let him go, pit bull. So it's good to be a part of that organization for the next farm. And it's a national organization, not just here in Michigan, although we'd like to get more focus in Michigan and more fundraising. The more money we have in that pot, the better lawyers we can get. And I can see a day when Farm to Consumer comes to town and everybody scrambles because it was just a bumble.
You alluded to know your rights, right? You know your rights. How about contacting your local enforcement?
Well, that's good. Yes. Yeah, very good. You got to know your rights. If a Department of Natural Resources person shows up, says they want to look in your barns, they're going to say it like this: we'd like to look in your barns. And you're going to hear, I'm going to look in your barns. But what you should be hearing is, we'd like to. I'd like to. I'd like to see what's in your pocket. I'd like your boots. I'd like your boots. But you're hearing, give me your boots, right? All right. And, but what you need to say when you hear, we'd like to look in your barns is, I'd like to see your search warrant. Because I have the Fourth Amendment, which protects my property from, warrantless search and seizure, things like that. If we're in other countries, they can just move your door down, come in, look through your wife's underwear drawer, and there's nothing you can do. That's the way it is in other countries, but not in this country. So that's one thing, that's your rights. The other thing is, your county sheriff is supposed to be independent of state and federal. There's a balance of powers there. It's supposed to be federal, state, and county. And your county sheriff should be at loggerheads with the state at all times. So if you have a problem, let's say with the DNR, and do something that's illegal, you should be able to go to the county sheriff and make a police report. And if the county sheriff is worth anything, he will understand that his duty is to protect and defend your constitutional rights. Period. End of story. So they want to set up roadblocks, violation before the county sheriff should be saying, And you know what? State police can come, and the county sheriff still goes, And he has more authority than anybody in his county. He has more authority than the governor does in